Working. Just realised I was talking. I didn't have my mic on, so that is a good start by me. Even better start knowing that, as you can see, the desk is a little bare right now. Kays is on his way. He only lives probably around 10 minutes from me. So he'll be here in a second. So it won't be very long. So I'm just riffing for a bit. We'll start the show properly once he gets here. We'll probably need to set up and things like that. But jump in on the chat if you want to ask any questions or talk about anything while we wait. I'm here. Let's have a look. I think we've got 5 on Facebook right now. So that's a good start. It's weird that Twitter doesn't show me from my dashboard here how much I've got. 7 on Twitter. G'day, Twitter people. I think if you comment on the comments, the chat comes up on the side. So if you want to have a chat there, you can do so. Now's your chance to, ask me anything, essentially. You might have noticed the new streaming setup this year. It's quite cool. If I switch here, right here on the desk, this thing here is my new camera switcher, which is quite cool. Basically, when I chat into the microphone, and then if Kays or Dossy chats in to theirs, it switches to the microphone that's switches to the camera that corresponds to that microphone. So that's a cool piece of tech that we bought this year, and it also records all our videos as well and saves the output. So it's a lot of editing time just kind of taken care of as well if it's automatically switching throughout. And what's cool as well, you can actually touch it up afterwards. So if it doesn't switch at the right time in post, you can kind of fix it up as well, which makes it quite cool. Let it switch back if I stop talking. Got a stream deck here as well. That's what I use to trigger all the scenes and things like that. And the slides like starting soon, like if I press that, then we've got the starting soon screen there. Geez, why is the chat so quiet tonight? There must be a Survivor on or something. People are watching TV. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But we're just waiting for Kays. For those who are joining us now, the podcast desk is bare. Probably Dossy, I guess I probably should explain as well. Dossy, hope he doesn't mind me explaining this, but he had a COVID test today, so he had a few symptoms. I think it's since come back negative, but he lives too far away to probably get here in time, so it's all good. It's all happening. The podcast will happen. It will go ahead. It'll go ahead if it's just me talking for an hour, which I'd feel sorry for you guys about that, but it'll go ahead regardless. So we'll just give Kays a few more minutes and he should get here. And seems like no one's chiming in the chat, so I might leave it there and I will be there in a second. Here we go. No ISO DOS, Nathan. No, I don't know why it just switched to that microphone, but it would be good. But with this stream setup, it's hard to patch another thing in. Like, as you can see here on the desk, there's just cables everywhere. And it's it's organized chaos, but I don't know, it's just hard to patch something else in, especially audio wise, because nothing's actually coming from my computer. It's just all actual analog audio being fed into this. It's not digital routing or anything like that. So it's only got 2 inputs as well, which they're both being used. So it just makes it hard to get someone in. 60-minute segment on Bowie season. You've built I don't mind Bowie. I'm not as high on him as I think Dossy is. Dossy has made it really sure that we pronounce his name correctly in the show doc tonight. So he's actually emphasised the OW in it and not OH. So yeah. Do you know what's going on with Jed Anderson and the vaccines? Jeez, I wish I did, because I own him. So I heard at the start of December that, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying anything like this. No one watches us, so it doesn't really matter. I heard at the start of December that he was a hardcore anti-vaxxer and was in Darwin and didn't want to come back to Melbourne and all that sort of stuff. And then later on it's turned out he got his vaccine, but then he had a reaction to it, which I don't know, which is something that people say. And then he said he was going to wait out for Novavax, but I don't know, it doesn't. Yeah, but then people often say that and then they don't get it, so I have no idea. Anyway, Kays has just walked through the door, so I'm going to hit the starting soon, let him get set up, and we'll be back in a jiffy. G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players that are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Hef and I'm joined by a stranger sitting across from me, a guy I haven't seen in a very long time, and that is none other than the Oracle K's. How are you, buddy?
Good to be here, Hef. Exciting to be back in studio, Hef. It's changed a lot in the last month since I've been out. We've got a new table, a lot more lighting.
I think the lighting's the same, but it's just reconfigured, that's all. A big congratulations is in order, Kay. Kay's had his first child, daughter, baby girl, beautiful baby girl. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And that explains why you've been away for so long, I guess.
It's been a whirlwind, Hef.
Yep.
Shit's kind of hit me in the face. So, figuratively and literally.
I was going to say, so all been through that.
So it's been it's been an amazing kind of month, but obviously life's kind of been flipped upside down. So it's been good that you and Dossy can continue to fly the Keeper League flag in my absence. But, I'm obviously here to improve some takes.
Yeah, good to hear. Yeah, bringing Dossy on was actually like a kind of a spur of the moment thing at the time, and I'm bloody glad we did it from our side. Yeah. Things would have been hectic otherwise. Jason Beck in the chat actually said congratulations on the baby.
Thanks, man.
Or congratulations on the sex, as the draft doctors say, but I think the baby's probably more important, to be honest. Anyways, Dossy's out tonight. He mentioned earlier he just had a COVID symptoms today, had a test. He's fine, came back negative, just couldn't get here in time, so it's all good.
I'm not actually sure that's true. Like, I want some conspiracy theories here. Now, I've got a couple. Like, obviously, these are pretty boring, but like, maybe me and Doss are the same person. Like, has anyone ever seen us in the same room at the same time?
He's got way more hair than you, dude.
That's true. But look, he's probably got a voice for radio. I've got a face for TV, so that obviously doesn't stack up. But the other one is maybe we just hate each other that much that we just can't be in the same room.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. Like, you're rarely in the same room. When we did the pod crossover, you seem to get on okay. I don't know.
We did get along okay.
Any other conspiracy theories?
I don't know. Like, that's why if the listeners are out there and they want to come up with a sweet conspiracy theory.
Maybe Dossy's an anti-vaxxer and we can't have him in the same room because you've got a newborn. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
I don't know if you want to put that on Dossy. That's a bit harsh.
Yeah, Dossy's not an anti-vaxxer. Not like the Jed Anderson chat we had before this podcast, but we'll move on from that. Now, Kays, because you've been away for so long, I've got a little present for you. So
thank you. Jeez, I should go away for a month more often if I get some presents. This is fantastic. What could it be?
Here we go.
What is this?
This is from MANSCAPED, not actually from me.
Is this a box of pair of new shoes? No.
It's not a pair of new shoes.
MANSCAPED.
Yep. So this is from our friends at MANSCAPED.
Pull here.
So some new gear. So you can pull that one there and open it up there. I've also got you this here.
What is that?
You wait and see, mate.
The weed whacker.
So
electric
basically,
nose and hair. Look, I know that I've kind of let myself go the last month, but to be greeted with an electric nose and hair trimmer straight up is a bit rude. But I take the hint.
Anyway, we'll be serious now. So MANSCAPED, they've jumped on board to sponsor the podcast. So what have I got here? I've got the Lawnmower 4.0 to have a look at. I've got the MANSCAPED, what's this one? The Crop Reviver. So that's the...
does that give me more hair on top of my head?
Well, that's the toner. So I don't know where it puts hair. You might try it on your head. It might give you some bottle of I don't actually know what a toner is, actually. But anyway. Then we've got the Crop Preserver, which is the ball deodorant as well. Then we've also got the Weed Whacker here, which is the nose hair trimmer. So basically, they basically sent us the performance package. So it comes from MANSCAPED. I didn't actually know it was charged. So that's pretty good. Yeah, these things are an absolute game changer. Okay, so like in the 4.0 that we got sent, there was all those products I just mentioned. That was the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker, the ear and nose trimmer. That's what that is. The Crop Preserver, the ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver, which is the toner. We also got a pair of boxers K's in there as well. And a little travel bag in there too. So thank you to MANSCAPED. So support for this podcast is brought to you by MANSCAPED, who is the best men's below the waist grooming service.
Have you seen that? Like the TikTok dudes who do the cricket commentary, and they like do the...
No, I haven't. But is that what they're holding?
It's amazing. They hold like a razor and they're like doing it there. Yeah, it's very funny.
It's funny that they use them as a microphone because MANSCAPED offer precision engineered tools for your family jewels. So I don't know if I'd want to put it that close to my face, Case. But MANSCAPED recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, which is what we got given. It's a performance package. Basically, over 4 million men worldwide are trusting MANSCAPED with their family jewels.
Wow.
So, yeah. If you want to get your hands on it, we've got an exclusive offer for you. Head to manscaped.com and use the coupon code KEEPER20 and you get 20% off and free shipping with a free worldwide shipping. So you can be anywhere,
Sweet.
basically. So use Keeper 20.
Our Finland listeners and
Anyway, all our
in
Finns.
Lao.
Yep. Keeper 20. Actually, I probably should actually run the ad on the stream there. Keeper 20. Get your Manscaped products and then, go from there. Now, Kaz, we've got something running on our social media as well. You want to share that?
So basically, we've got one of these products, don't we have?
Yes, basically, we've got a Lawnmower 4.0, a spare one there.
And all you have to do is retweet or share a Facebook post.
Yeah, so I think it's
on the running.
Pinned to our Twitter. I think you have to dig through our Facebook, a few pages, a few posts below. But basically, if you share or retweet that post, you go into the running to win a Lawnmower 4.0. So, geez, this is a bit different.
Treat your balls.
Yeah, this is a bit different to the normal sponsor reads we do. But I've seen a few out there, actually, a few people, they're a bit embarrassed to retweet it. They like, don't want to admit they do a bit of grooming downstairs. Nothing to be ashamed of. It's 21st century. It's what men do. This is what we all do.
Hef does it, apparently.
Yeah, get on board.
I haven't seen it. I want to put that out there.
Yeah, you don't want to. Do you want to? No,
not right now.
Okay,
we'll come back and play.
We'll wait till the stream.
Come back and play some B-grade footy.
I think. Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. All right, I think it's time to stop being so silly, and we'll get into our club previews. All right, the Oracle is back and he is going to talk us through the Hawthorn Hawks. He's picked some players for us here, so let's get stuck into it.
Yep, I'm going to start off with Dylan Moore. Now, I'm a huge fan of young Dylan Moore, and an absolute travesty last year he wasn't voted into the best 22 under 22. I just think no one actually realised how good a season he had playing in such a crap team. So he averaged 15 touches, 3 tackles and kicked 27 snags. Now, that's really good going. That's the same as Eddie Betts managed last year, more than Connor Rosie, more than Jordan De Goey, more than our boy Lockie Schultz. He had a genuine year last year. He was actually the 50th best fantasy forward last season with an average of 70.4. And his last 5, he came home very strongly, averaged 85.7, which had him as the 16th best. So only 6 of his 20 games are under 60 points, which I think is pretty good for a small forward of his kind of ilk. He averaged 72 after the bye, and in that had 2 39s, but also had a 94 and a 97. So he just kept delivering good scores week in, week out. Only was held goalless 4 games of his 20 last year too. So what I love about Dylan Moore, he just loves the contested footy. He's happy to go and find it himself, lay the tackles, do all that kind of stuff. Now, he's just a bit more than your normal small forward for me. I don't want to, lump him in as he's a Toby Green type, but he's just got a few more fantasy tricks than someone like a Charlie Cameron or a James Rowe or, those kind of, guys that you might pick up last round. There's actually something about Dylan Moore I really, really like. Now, he's just that touch of a stretch if you were going to hold him as a keeper. He's in my side currently. I don't think I'll be keeping him, but he's someone I'm kind of keen to draft again, maybe, for us, Hef, round 4, round 5, round 6, just because we know that forwards are scarce this year, and he just doesn't put in a bad game. So I love him as like a F4, F5 option this year, where almost a bit of a set and forget.
Yeah, I think F5 is where he's at. Like maybe bench, depends how you're going. But if you're in the top 50 and you're playing a 10-team league, basically puts him in the F5 category. So yeah, I don't mind it. There was a period where Chad Wingard was out, but I don't think it really affects him because I think Chad Wingard's going to run through the midfield this year, so I think it's fine. Just having a look at his splits here for the season. So actually, it was the back half of the season where he came home super strong. So that was when Wingard was actually in the side. So I think that's actually bodes well for him there to prove that I can actually score along with him there. Look, like I said, not someone who's hugely on my radar. I only draft small forwards if they're like the type that kind of can kick bags every now and then, because I just use them as streamers. I don't love the kind of 70 average ones, but yeah, as an F5, I think it's fine.
I'll take him then in our league.
That's fine, man.
Will Day's the next guy I want to talk about. So I'm incredibly high on this youngster. I know you are too, Hef. He had a bit of a delayed pre-season heading into this year, but he's up and running now and should be good to go. So Day averaged 69 from his 5 games last year. A couple of real eye-catching games too. So in round 1 against the Bombers, he had 28 touches for 103 points. And round 15 against the Giants, he had 29 touches for 88. So he averaged 74.5 BCV the year prior. And look, despite not winning as much footy as he did last year, he was just super consistent on that wing and half-back flank. So he's got back status this year, but I do see him on a wing going forward.
Yeah,
I think that's like his role for life.
Yep.
But look, with him on one wing, Tommy Phillips on the other, I just think, unlike Phillips last year, I don't think he's going to have a stinker like Tom Phillips did. But he's got a great year ahead. And if I'm going to tip one thing, it's going to be that he loses their back status. But for me, as a long-term, keeper league player, I don't think that should be a reason to not draft him, because I think he's going to be a top echelon kind of player, potentially up around a Hugh McLuggage kind of status for me. So, look, he's got plenty of class. He uses the ball beautifully. The Hawks genuinely want it in his hands. So, if he comes into this year fit, obviously it's still a bit of a monitor pre-season watch, just in case he's, just have a few niggles. But in an established keeper league, it wouldn't stop me drafting him, if he's available. But if it just might, if you're starting one up, might just have to drop him down a touch if he has a few injury issues. But look, I think he's a massive, massive, massive contender for a third year breakout.
Yeah, he was an elite junior scorer, 100+ average in the Sample under 18 in South Australia, I think he is. So yeah, always had potential. First season, gunned it in that 2020 Corona year. Was managed a bit, was rested a few, but put up a few 80s and things like that. So it was pretty handy there. I think he's one of the players, like Hawthorn's one of those clubs that if he's going to lose his back status, it's probably a good thing for him, because you don't want to be caught up in that glut of defenders that you're going to talk about soon. Mm-hmm. He's actually just going to come up to the wing and actually play some fantasy-friendly footy, which is going to be nice, because I think a lot of actual defenders, you're going to have one that scores well, and I've got no idea who it's going to be. Yep. And I think the rest are going to have to share the points, but we'll talk about that in a sec. Who you got next?
I'm going to talk about a little battle within a battle here. It's the Ned Reeves v Max Lynch situation. So I'm going to say it's Reeves bodily harm versus Mad Max Lynch.
I like it.
So it's a genuine fight for who's going to be the next in line as the Hawks number one. Now, I think you've got to assume that Big Boy is going to assume the number one mantle still. Now, we know that Seggs has gone off to... God, where's he gone to?
He went to Geelong.
He went to Geelong, that's right. So it's Big Boy and one of these guys. Now, if we go through their 2021 stats, Reevesy played 8 VFL games, averaged 11 touches, 31 hit-outs for 76 fantasy points. He had 2 tons and a couple real quiet games in there, but he played 5 AFL games for the Hawks. He had 10 touches, averaged 26 hit-outs and 69 fantasy points a game. So
nice.
Reeves, what's his most hit-outs were in round 11 against the Ruckless Suns. So that's when he pulled out 35 hit-outs and had 81 fantasy points. Now, good game, and we were quite keen on what we were seeing from Reeves last year, but I'm just a bit worried that, maybe he's not quite there, which is why I wanted to look into Mad Max Lynch. So Lynch played 7 VFL games, averaged 13 touches, 3 tackles, 32 hit-outs and 91 fantasy points. He also had 3 tons, and his lowest score in the VFL last year was 70. So Lynch got the opportunity for 2 AFL games last year, averaged 11 touches, 21 hit-outs and 61 fantasy points. But he did play against the D's and the Crows, who we know have Gawn and O'Brien, and that was when Grundy was out. So he was actually coming up against some genuine opposition. So I reckon at the moment, if you put a gun to my head, I reckon I've got Maxi Lynch ahead of Reeves. Look, Reeves definitely showed us a bit last year, but for me, Lynch just has that little bit more well-rounded game. And from a fantasy point of view, I think he just is a bit better move, a bit more nimble around the ground. So I reckon I like him to be the guy playing in tandem with Big Boy this year.
I don't know. I really don't know. If Lynch was any good, wouldn't he be back up to Grundy because Darcy Cameron played so much footy? I don't know if he... Reeves actually I thought was pretty quite solid. He was obviously rucking in tandem quite the time. The guy's 211 centimetres. I don't see hit-outs being a problem for him coming forward. He's the biggest player in the AFL. So he should be fine to win those. It's more so just kind of getting consistent time as the number one ruck, I think. Everyone's comparing him to Sandilands because he's so big and he's going to be the next guy. The guys like that are going to win, get to points if they're the number one ruck where they're just going to win 50 hit-outs a game because they're so huge. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happens. I think long-term, Reeves is definitely the one I want the piece of, though. But I don't know what happens this year. I really don't know what happens this year. It could be either or. I reckon because Hawthorn are a developing side, and the way I'm seeing this is Hawthorn are a developing side, so they have Reeves number one ruck with Big Boy as the chop out because he's been playing forward the last couple of seasons. Last year they had Segler kind of as their number one ruck for most of the season. They kind of swapped between... Reeves and Segler for most of the year, really. And then McAvoy played, and when McAvoy was by himself, he'd be the number one ruck. But when there was someone else playing with him, he'd generally be the second ruck on top of that. So I think they just where they're at in their development, I think they're going to play Reeves. And because Segler's gone, they've just got Lynch to kind of be the backup ruckman for that That's my take.
Interesting. I hope they do something sweet like a tug of war or something to see who gets the final spot.
2-man sack race.
Yeah, exactly. Or just do like a 100-game rock, paper, scissors. First
Something
to 51.
Like that. Yeah, for sure.
But it's interesting to watch. So I'm a big watch on them pre-season because I think they're both going to be quite good ruckmen in their own right. But yeah, just how it kind of plays out, I'm still a bit happy to avoid Hawthorn rucks this year again.
No worries.
Jack Gunston, Hef. Now, disregard him at your own costs. Now,
okay,
this is get this ready for a snippet for Facebook and Instagram. Get your reels. You keep telling me I need to get some real worthy stuff here.
Yeah,
so
come on, give us some real worthy stuff.
Press record. Rightio. So, Jackie Gunston, bulging disc last year, which honestly sounds horrible. Now, he played one game for 31 points. So, bad back before that. He had a bad back before that round 7 game. Basically went in, injured again, went for more surgery. Now, if he's fit, I reckon he could be the draft sleeper of the year, Jack Gunston. So looking back on his previous season averages, he averaged 85, 87, and 76 in the Corona Ball year. Now, he's only 30. He's a 30 to 40 goal a year forward. He's easily still best 22 on the Hawks side. Now, he may very well slide in a lot of drafts and someone's going to get themselves an F3 for an absolute bargain. For a price of a packet of chips, Jack Gunston is the man you need to be targeting in your keeper leagues this year.
Haven't been following him this off-season too closely. How's the injury status going?
I think it's slowly.
Yeah.
I think it's slowly, but I think... Look, if you're looking at those numbers, 80. So even if you go on 76 as being his worst averaging, side, what was it? Bloody our boy Dylan Moore averaged 70 and was a top 50. So he's going to be pushing top 30 if he's fit.
I got no doubt if he plays, he's an 80 average man. Easy. Like around that kind of mark, 78, 79, that kind of average, which is how you take that in a keeper league. It's just a matter of how long he stays on the park. And then it's not even just about getting back to playing, it's how getting used to AFL level again, getting fit, all that sort of stuff. It can be so frustrating just waiting for him to come good. Yeah, I think if he's fit and firing, he's a man you want to have in your team. But I just don't know if he gets there, that's all.
Is he a guy who's just going to be, in our league, people are going to be like, I'm not going to draft Gunston because he's injured and he's old. Yeah. But really, he's only 30 and yes, he's had a bit of a bad back, but he's one who could bounce back and I just reckon he's going to slide a lot because people will be like, old, he's hacked it, he's gone past his use-by date.
He'll slide and get taken by a premiership contender. I think that's what will happen with him. And he'll probably be serviceable if he can get in the park.
An astute pick for those fantasy coaches in my eyes. Tommy Phillips is what I'm going to talk about next. Now, the big question is, are fantasy coaches going to forgive Flipper? He had a coach killing 73 average last year, and basically every pundit, including us, we expected big things from the centre forward DPP. Look, he only had 1 ton for the year last year, which was 104 against his old side.
That's disgusting. I thought he did better than that.
1 ton, 104 against the Pies, just to stick it up.
His old club.
But 2018, 2019, he averaged 95 and 90 respectively and went at 26 and 26 touches. Now, last year, he only averaged 18.5. Now, looking through his stats, he actually did most things pretty similar. His tackle numbers were the same, his marks numbers were the same, his scoreboard pressure was very similar. He just wasn't getting those extra 5 or 7 touches. Now, I think he's very much worth a look to pick up because new coach, we know anything can happen when there's a new coach. He's coming there on some big coin. The wing role for him, in my eyes, is locked. I think it's going to be Phillips and Day. So I'm not actually concerned about his spot on the side. And many coaches are going to disregard him after losing that DPP status. But realistically, the addition of forward status last year was probably a bit generous. He was always kind of a wingman at the Pies. Yeah. And it was just oh man, Phillips has got forward status. Let's get on board. But he was really always a winger. He probably just came into a less fantasy friendly side. So look, I reckon he may even be able to avoid that poor average this year. I just genuinely think there's upside. So second year in the new club, a bit more settled, new coach, opportunities are endless. He's probably not a keeper, but I reckon he's worth looking at early on in the draft because he could be bouncing back from, a 73 to a 93 without too much effort.
I think there is some safety going these kind of, older players or more established players. But the thing I worry about is there's a lot of these players coming through that's at Hawthorn that seem to be Sam Mitchell's boys, players that he's brought up through the VFL because he's a VFL coach that he absolutely loves. Yeah, and there was and like so then you look at someone like Lockie Bramble, who spent a bit of time with him last year and came in and made a huge impact at the top level. Mainly when people were injured and he was kind of running out of the back line, but before he was playing at the back line, he was on the wing. You got Will Day coming back, who was kind of unfit. You got someone like Downey who might come in at some stage, even though I've heard nothing about him this preseason. Like I do worry that if he doesn't perform,
Impey.
Impey, someone who could push up to a wing. I just worry that if he doesn't perform early, they're just going to go, see you later. You're costing us too much coin. You're costing a kid a spot. And that's what I worry about.
I think there's a lot more upside than downside with Phillips.
I think so.
Because I think he's going to be so undervalued.
Yeah. He just needs to get back to, well, the thing is like he's never been, I guess footy-wise he's been fine. Fantasy-wise he's had even as like a mid-only that year, he was like an 80 average. And then everyone thought he was going to go big. Like last year, because he had forward status, everyone got excited because he was supposed to be playing midfielder. But so is he going to be that relevant? Like is he just going to be like a 75, 80 average mid?
No,
which is handy.
I think he'd be a bit more.
Okay.
I just think you're going to get some value. That's my feel.
Yeah. I'm just worried that like they'll go full rebuild or full develop the kids and he'll be the first one out. That's my issue.
He's still not that old, I don't think.
I know, but it's like he's just not performing like the kids will just kind of come up and overtake him. That's what I'm worried about.
Not sure. Yeah. Interesting. There's going to be a lot to watch with Sam Mitchell at the helm. Now, I want to talk about, this is a bit
You can't talk about this many players, Case.
I can. Because we talked about this on the Defenders pod for our
You're talking about
members.
a whole line here.
I am. Because I think people need to get in the head that Hawthorne Defenders are genuinely a nightmare this year. Now,
absolutely.
Because you go, oh man, there's so many good scorers. You got like CJ, you got Sicily, you got Impey, you got Scrimshaw, you got Hardwick. They can't all fit in. They can't all score. So I just want to kind of run through what I think is going to happen with the Hawthorn backline this year. Now, first I'll start off with CJ, so Zuerha. He has to be an attacking defender because he's a horrible defender, if that makes sense. When he had to actually defend properly last year, just wasn't that good at it. But his run and drive for that Hawthorn backline was amazing for them. So I think he's going to continue his scoring along quite nicely. Now, James Sicily is the big one, and I was pretty low on him in our defender ranks. I think he has to play a lockdown this year because they need CJ on that side, and they need him running, creating. I think Sicily might kind of build himself into like a Stephen May kind of player who's still an okay fantasy scorer, but just a genuine general back there, I think. Just someone who can play, come in and intercept mark, still take some kickouts, etc. But he'll play that bit more of a lockdown role. Jamin Imp will be back there. He'll be that attacking, running defender. He was fantastic when he was fit last year. I think Jack Scrimshaw kind of remains solid scoring on a half-back flank there. Blake Hardwick's the one who I think is going to go lockdown and he's going to become a bit more fantasy relevant. He got that kind of bump last year because, Impey, Scrimshaw, all those guys kind of were injured at times.
He did have a lot of the kick-ins as well, though.
He did, and I think he'll still get some kick-ins, but I think Sicily, honestly, any of those guys could take kick-ins.
Yeah, that's
Sicily,
one of the questions I was going to ask.
Scrimshaw, Hardwick, or you could even have Will Day come back there and take some kick-ins. It's impossible. But they've also got to play some actual lockdown defenders. You can't just have, CJ, Impey, Scrimshaw running off doing their own thing. You've got to have some lockdowns. So I think Sam Frost is in there to do that over Hardigan. I think Hardigan's kind of more backup, but which means bad news for someone like a Lockie Bramble. I just don't think he's best 22 from round one. I think he's around the mark, but look, for me, who would you rather have, like Bramble or Impey or Bramble or Zuerha? I think you're always going to go with like a Zuerha or an Impey.
Bramble can go up to a wing though. That's the thing. Like he doesn't have to play in the
That's true, but you've only got so many spots on a wing as well.
Yeah, that's why like my Phillips take was like, I think they'll start with Phillips for sure. It could see Bramble out, or they could just start him on a bench and rotate him through because then you can kind of go into a couple roles as well, which might free up Sicily to go forward because there was talk of that as well. Lots of
It's interesting because you got Kaczynski and Mitchell Lewis up there who are kind of building youngsters. You still got like Granger, Barras or whatever who could come back. There's a lot of guys who can play defense.
Sicily almost was like that third tall anyway because they had who'd they have, like Buddy Franklin obviously earlier, and then they had like David Hale and McAvoy would rotate up there as well.
The Hawks are a massive watch. I'm just saying, if I'm a Hawks defender owner, I'm not getting too excited about anyone having a huge year because there's a lot of good attacking options and they can't all get the pill.
All right. So that's your take. Now I'm going to talk about a player that's intrigued me. I was a bit sad when you left this guy out, so I wanted to talk about him because there's been a lot of chatter on him on a lot of the fantasy podcasts, these socials, and then a lot on the Twitter as well.
Why are you listening to any other podcast?
I like to just support the community, mate. I like to hear what everyone's going on. I like to just hear my name mentioned on the others, but yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But anyway,
that's why you call it Hollywood.
Anyway. Connor Nash is the guy I want to talk about, all right? So he only averaged 61 last year, so it's so easy for people to overlook him. And he played 7 games as well. But in the first 2 games, he only scored 24 apiece, so pretty poor scoring. But the big thing about Connor Nash is round 20, it was just like, you're a midfielder now, and just went to the centre bounces and, got, 50% of them, 40% of them, 47%, 52%, 50%, and then 39% over the last 4 rounds. So when he moved into that midfield. So when he played as a midfielder, he averaged 79.5 and kind of was running around in there like he was just a man possessed, just tackling, just trying to get the pillars he could. Like he was absolutely nuts in there and just putting up decent fantasy scores doing so. So his fantasy scores he had in there were 95, 92, 33, and 98. And then people have been saying like, new coach, so you can't trust it, it's hard. Sam Mitchell was the reason why he went into the midfield, like because he was just talking him up at VFL level, using him as a midfielder in the VFL, and basically just knocking on Clarko's shoulder, basically saying you've got to put this guy in the guts because he's killing it down here. In the VFL, he had a couple big scores, nothing major, but like he only played a few rounds in the midfield in the VFL before COVID kind of screwed everything up and moved up, and he moved up into the senior side. So we just got to hope that holds for 2022. The thing is, like, can you guarantee it? And absolutely not, especially with a fully fit side. You've got, is it Connor Mcdonald, the draftee, coming in, and the other one, Ward, was coming in. Yep. And I reckon they'll blood them as well, so that makes it super, super difficult. But listed as a forward, he's one of those players that's just worth a punt, I think. Just worth a punt.
So, Mike, honestly, Hawthorn's so hard. So everyone keeps going, where do you fit in these kind of guys? I'll read through my best 22 for Hawthorn just to give you some, and you can tell me.
I knew you'd sneak a best 22
but
in
if
there.
You can, but you tell me who someone like, what's his name? Who are we talking about?
Connor Nash.
Connor Nash is going to play over. Sorry, he's not even my best 26. All right, so Hardwick, Frost, Impey.
Yeah.
Jarth, Sicily, Scrimshaw. Phillips, Mitchell, Day. Gunston, Lewis, Bruce. Wingard, Kaczynski, Moore. McAvoy, Warple, O'Meara. Then you got Shields, maybe Hardigan as a second defender. Dan Howe, Max Lynch as a second ruck. Then in the emergencies, you've got Bramble, Morrison, Ward, McDonald. I just don't think they fit in.
There's quite a few like aging players that they could go back. Like someone like Shields.
Do you reckon they're going to just dump Shields? Just
potentially, man. Like they could just actually start like using the backup. But potentially, because I
think you got to try and win games. Don't I? Actually, everyone wants to write Hawthorn off this year. I actually don't think they're going to be that crap.
But the thing is, I don't think they're too reliant on older players in that side. They've actually got like a genuine kind of good like 25 to 27, like a few in there. You got Wingard, Mitchell, and Warple's now entering his 5th year and stuff like that. So the midfield's actually quite good. Sicily's not old. Like they're not that old as you think. I think they might try to use those players as their core and actually try to get some
isn't going to knock off like O'Meara or someone like that for a spot.
Well, no, but he was just rotated through there last year.
So Dan Howe's come off a career best year at 25.
Yeah.
And
he's another one playing on the wing that we should be talking about with Phillips. But
but you can throw in Morrison, you can throw in, Bramble, you can throw in heaps of other guys.
Just at the end of last year, those last 5 games, none of those players coming back, but he earned that spot. Like he was playing really well. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting. And listed as a forward, I think that's the only reason I'm actually piquing my interest. If he was a midfielder, I wouldn't give a shit. But yeah, listed as a forward, that's the biggie with him. So yeah, anyway. And then Jaden O'Brien's asking the chat, is Connor Nash best 22?
I don't think
Answer
so.
for me is I don't know.
No.
I think yes. I think you got to reward the form on the end of last year, but like again with a fully fit side,
the best side, he's not in best side.
It depends on injuries and stuff.
He's
like
probably
that
in their side week to week because there's always going to be a few guys injured.
Yeah, be nice if you could hold a spot and run through the middle again. Anyways, that'll do it for the Hawthorn players. We'll move on to Melbourne. All right, Kays, how do you want to do this? We got Dossy's notes here, so he was laid out this morning, and he's actually formatted them very reader-friendly. They're actually designed for people who didn't write them and haven't read them yet, so...
I should take a leaf out of his book next time.
That's all right. No, you'd let me play, mate. It's fine.
Right, I'm going to talk about this guy because I love him. I'm an owner. I'm huge on him. It's Luke Jackson. So he averaged 62 last year from just 75% time on ground. The big question is, will he get more opportunity to be a ruckman in year 3? Now, Dossy thinks so, and he's going to say why. So he reckons in his second season, his improvement was just eye-popping. Has the ability to cover the ground and play like a midfielder, particularly notable in his follow-up tackling. Let us know that there are several higher levels for Jackson to reach until he truly hits his game. Now, I'm pretty keen on that kind of call because I do agree. I love Luke Jackson hunting ground ball. He just runs like a midfielder, as Dossy said. But yeah, he's he could be a midfielder. He's a genuine, the old school ruck rover where the real kind of tall blokes used to just kind of pinch it in the ruck, and Jackson's got that ability. Tim English exploded in his third year. Jackson's entering the magical third year breakout too. But look, obviously there's the Gawn factor there. So, English had that role as basically the number one ruckman, but Jackson won't have that. No, I think you're going to have to be prepared for his ups and downs, as Dossy's saying. So I think Jackson will get thrown forward, but he's also going to get plenty of opportunity in the CBAs this year. So he'll get some major number one ruck action at times in some blowout games, but when it's really tight and when Melbourne need to win, it's going to be Max Gawn's time to shine in that midfield. So he's tipping him to be a F3 to F4, and I totally agree. I'm excited to be a Luke Jackson owner. Now, if we did a little mock draft with the traders yesterday.
Are we allowed to announce that?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's not exclusive anymore.
We did it. Maybe
it maybe happened.
Anyway, I managed to get Max Gawn in the second round.
Yeah.
And you poo-hooed my call
Didn't
because
you
said that he's not going to be number one ruck.
No, I didn't say not number one ruck. I think he still is. I think he's just going to get less time in there. Like, I do see a world, I'm not sure if it's this year or next year, where Max Gawn is no longer a 100-plus averager. He's a 90 to 100 averager because Jackson's kind of up and coming. Like, we saw how effective Jackson was in the final series. And then how effective actually Gawn could actually play out forward as well. And even though he went massive when he played out forward because he kicked, 4 goals in that, was it a prelim that he did that? Yeah. So, we saw it's effective. That scares me. We saw Gawn be effective up forward and Jackson absolutely brain it in the middle. So we could even see a 50-50 split. And that's just what spooks me. That's why I avoided it. I saw Gawn there and I was like, yeah, that's a value pick. But yeah, that's just what spooked me, where I went lead, where I was someone else I've comfortable going to average 100 and, 105, 110 type thing. So yeah, I don't know. That's just what spooks me because Jackson was just so good in there.
Yes, he was. I just think that Melbourne's window is open genuinely for another 2 or 3 years, and you're not just going to give Jackson a go because he's up and coming and he's the next big thing. You're still going to play your best side. That's my gut feel. And Max Gawn's still one of the best ruckmen in the competition.
But I think we saw in the finals that their best setup was basically them playing tandem ruck.
And they can. But I still don't think you're going to see Luke Jackson score 90 this year.
Yeah, I'm actually talking about Gawn more than talking about Jackson, to be honest. Going back to your point. No, I agree. I agree with that. I don't think Luke Jackson is going to be massive. I reckon he's going to slowly come up and Gawn's going to slowly come down. But I think that's basically
as a ruck forward, he's a great option.
Yeah, I love it.
Great option.
And I reckon he'll keep it, to be honest. As long as they're playing in tandem, he'll keep it. So
could Max Gawn be a ruck forward?
Yeah, I reckon he could too. Yeah, so that could be handy as well.
Juicy.
Yeah. I'll do Cozzy Pickett next, or Cozzy Pickett as his full name is. Dossy's got written here, gun player, but gun fantasy player. I'm trying to read it like Dossy would. He's a small forward, so it'll be tough. Dossy hates drafting small forwards, so do I, Dossy. But Pickett has the tools and a scoring build to be relevant. Pickett possesses that mow-down speed and picture-perfect tackling technique, reminiscent of the havoc that prime Cyril Rioli would cause whenever he was 20 metres of the Sharon. Pickett can hit the scoreboard and can lay a tackle, 2 great attributes for a small forward that can actually score for us, and add to that, he can get CBAs. So Cozzy averaged 16% attendance rate from rounds 1 to 6 before dropping down to 4% for the remainder of the season. So that was including finals as well. So expect Pickett to gain more CBA exposure at times in 2022, even if it's just a spattering here and there. And he's only 20 years old, so this guy's a genuine superstar in the making. Dossy doesn't think his ceiling will ever be huge because he plays that small forward role, but his tackling upside alone has me excited, and as a rare small forward, he'd be happy to draft. What do you think?
I'm big on Cozzy Pickett.
Yeah.
I think he's got that extra level. I reckon he can genuinely roll through that Demons midfield at times. Kind of the Bowie style, what we saw, or even Stringer style, just get some CBAs because he's a fantastic extractor of the footy. So, there's a few kind of small forwards who I'd be happy to have in my side, and he's one of them.
I don't see him as Stringer to go because those guys are a lot bigger built. He's pretty slight type thing. Let's just...
I want to see some sizes.
In terms of weight is more my issue.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's you need the body to actually kind of do what they do. I just looking here, so I like doing this with small forwards, and Champion Data doesn't actually rank small forward and key forward. It's more medium forward, and that's what everyone's ranked as. So you're either a key forward or a medium forward. But even with the medium forwards, like the best one last year in average was 84.8, and that was Jaden Stevenson and then Toby Green. So these guys are running like through the midfield as well. I wouldn't really class them as small forwards. I'm actually trying to go through a list here and find someone you genuinely class as a small forward.
Just 1 second. Cosy Pickett's 171 centimetres.
That's small.
That's so small.
Yeah. So
I'm 178 and I'm
so he's not the goalie or stringer type.
Retract that. I officially retract that, but still I love him.
So I'm actually just going through this. Like genuine small forwards, the best one, would you call Robbie Gray a genuine small forward? Or was he midfield forward?
I'd say he's midfield forward.
Yeah, what about Jamie Cripps? Was he small forward or is he medium forward?
He just says medium forward.
Yeah, okay. What about Dylan Moore? Small forward?
Small forward.
So he was probably the best small forward.
Told you.
Average.
You gave me no respect.
No, I didn't. I said I just F5 fine. Average 70. So, yeah, like I know these aren't hard and fast things. You do get a few outliers in that, but I like looking at trends and things like this. So that's why, my key forward I don't like because, yes, you might get one that pops, but they're few and far between.
You're the guy that always drafts Charlie Cameron.
Yeah, no, but okay, I'll explain that. And I like Cozzy for this reason, actually. I draft them as streamers. Like, I just sit them on the bench. If they kick 5, pop them on. And because, like, Cozzy is a player that can do that. Like, can kick a bag and things like that. They're only going to be relevant when they kick a bag. That's the thing. So, I do draft these kind of guys, but I draft them really late. And just for that reason. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why I like Cozzy Pickett for that, for sure.
The next guy is Jake Bowie. Now, before we came on, Doss gave us a full description of how to pronounce Bowie.
It's Bowie, isn't it?
No.
I'm just trying to piss Doss off.
I was trying to figure it out. And
no, it's Bowie.
He's kind of tried to write it, but I just
realised the hilarity of that because you actually thought you said the player name wrong because you do it so frequently, but I was actually making a joke.
So I'm going to call him Bowie the Yowie.
Mate, we've just got a reel. Well done.
Bowie the Yowie, because that's how it said. Remember Yowies?
Yep.
That was sick.
Yeah. Kinder Surprise was better.
You can't beat Kinder Chocolate. Jake Bowie is on Dossy's bus. He reckons he's a stud. So this is a huge call. I think this has gone way too early. But look, I'll read what he says. Premium ball user that can rack it up, and Goodwin wants the ball in his hands. So 176, so 5 centimetres taller than Cozzy Pickett. He's a wee little tacker, but tenacious at the pill and willing to crash on in. Played mids as a junior, has elite disposal, and we'll see him in the back line more and more in 2022. So averaged just 54 AFL fantasy points from his 4 games in his rookie season. Bowie has plenty of upside in 2022. In 7 healthy games in the VFL, he averaged 93 AFL fantasy points. He had a 10-point game in an injury-affected round 5. But in those numbers, he had 105, 115 and a 90 in his final 3 games before getting the call up to the D's side. So Dossy sees him taking Jaden Hunt's spot in the side immediately. Bowie was no slouch in the grand final either. Picked up 17 touches, including 7 in the hotly contested first quarter on the biggest stage in September. So he's only 19, and there are plenty of mouths to feed in that Demons backline, including the next player we're going to talk about. But Jake, my boy Bowie, is incredibly high on the young defender gun power rankings. He's making up power rankings.
Fair enough.
I feel dumb saying all this stuff. Not because it's necessarily silly. It's just because this is how Doss talks and I talk differently. But look, he reckons he's going to explode and also has observable thirst. But that's a myth. We all know that.
You didn't read the last line down here, Case.
Get the Insta ready and put up the stream banner. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Jake Bowie is my manscaped bald scrote goat.
So we've spent the last week trying to replace the Remedy gut feel with a Manscaped themed pun, and smooth ball call and bald scrote goat is the best we can come up with. So if you guys have any good suggestions, we might make that a bit of a Twitter topic this week. If you've got any good Manscaped / ball related puns that we could use to describe, like to replace the Remedy gut feel, let us know. That'd be good.
God.
Bowie. I didn't know his VFL numbers were that good.
Pretty good. Very good.
But the concern that I have, and he's already said it, is just the mouths to feed. And throughout they're all so young, so throughout the career, there's going to be a lot there to feed. So I don't hate it.
No, but the guy that you're going to talk about next is the guy I'm so keen on.
Yeah, so Trent Rivers is the next one. So he's another gun D's defender. Dossy loves looking at the time on ground as a great indicator of breakout upside. It's simple. More time on ground means more opportunity to score. Trent Rivers averaged 59 AFL fantasy points in just 70% time on ground in 2021, 9% lower than his rookie season, and a mark considerably lower than most defenders in the competition. Playing all 22 games in his sophomore season, including every game in the finals, the 20-year-old West Australian is a prime candidate for the famed third-year breakout. So get your pen ready here, Kay. So high kick-to-ball handball ratio. Tick that one off. Yep. Mix of contested and uncontested possessions. Tick. And third in line for kick-ins. Tick.
Don't you want him more high up?
What's that?
Surely you want him more high up than third in line.
Well, I think he's probably just saying from on last year's number.
Who's higher?
Salem, probably. Yeah. Only issue is competition for touches, especially with the emergence of Bowie. Monitor him in the preseason because he is a genuine chance to break out. And he's just got a little note here. These two players, Bowie and Rivers, are why I'm less high on Salem as a premium dude in the next 5 years. Both users both awesome users, and will demand the pill more in the coming years.
Once again, I think Dossy's just getting a little bit too excited.
You're a big Salem man, though, so that just offends you.
No, but it's just it's basically the same. I am, but it's the same problem with like saying that Jackson's going to be breaking out this year. Like Melbourne aren't going to just be like, hey, Bowie and Rivers, you can just run the back line now. Like, no, they want to win 3 more flags for their poor supporters who haven't had one for 50 years. Like they're not just going to go to youth because they've flagged up. Like it's just, like dynasties are there. And Salem's still like 25, 26. Like, I don't know. I understand what he's saying, but he's just wrong.
I find we just end up defending our premiums here over these kind of picks at the moment. But, Rivers, so what do you think? Do you think he's got the makings of a star?
I do, but I think he's a slow grower.
Yeah, same.
Like I don't expect him to be breaking out this year. I reckon he's a 4th or 5th year kind of breakout when the timing's right. Yeah.
I do like the time, so I don't necessarily agree always with time on ground, not the same. It's obvious that more time on ground generally equates to more fantasy scoring. It's not always obvious that they're going to get more time on ground because they might just not have the tank to get that time on ground. But I think as a running defender, most of those running defenders play high time on ground. So if he's not if he's only playing low time on ground due to rotations and things like that, that's fine. I don't think it's a tank issue at all. So I think that's fine. But yeah, I think it's more that there's just too many kind of players to rotate on their field. That's the only issue. So I'm not concerned about this one. I do think there's more time on ground upside for Trent Rivers. I think he played super low in the grand final as well. So that was kind of interesting as well, especially in the game. So anyway, let's move on.
James Jordan's the next guy he's got on his list. The surprise packet of 2021, he's calling it. Popular play in both the draft and classic circles as he took up a prominent role in Melbourne's premiership campaign. Jordan averaged 17 touches, 3 marks, 5 tackles and 70 AFL fantasy points in just 65% time on ground from his 21 games in the regular season. Just 21 years old, Jimbo George had an outstanding points per minute numbers across the season, proving himself to be a fantasy-friendly option with the inside-outside capacity. However, it's tough to see a world where Jordan gets more opportunities in 2022, given the arrival of another capable inside midfielder in Luke Gunston. Frankly, he reckons Jordan may not play in 2022. He was relegated to the sub for round 23 in the finals campaign. Sparrow went up the pecking order and now Gunston has arrived. Jordan's best chance short-term could be as a health and safety protocol call-up. Will still have capacity to go big on any given day. But longer term, Jordan will have to clean up his disposal as he just went at 50% by foot last season and passed the likes of Dunstan, Sparrow and Harms to get another shot at being a fantasy stud in the future. I hear your point, Doss, but I actually really disagree.
You were saying Dunstan's not going to play at all this year.
I don't actually think Luke Dunstan is going to get a game.
I think if you've got kids playing, there's opportunities for him to get a game, I think.
What's Luke Gunston ever really done well? Apart from score really well fantasy wise.
Last year, in terms of just actual football, he was a bit of an enforcer last year for the St Kilda. He was just one of the kind of hard at it guys. I know they don't, but it's the style they like to play. I think they've got 2-3 blokes in there that kind of do that well, and I think if they're just rampaging blokes in there, it could suit them pretty well. I don't know.
I don't actually see a world where James Jordan's not best 22.
Let's flip it. What does James Jordan do that Luke Dunstan doesn't?
He's got a premiership medal around his neck.
So automatically play for the rest of your life. Is that right?
Well, if he doesn't do something good, he would have got dropped last year for Nathan Jones.
Yeah, I disagree because Jones was just cooked, and Jones went back home in the end for the birth of his children. So,
but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there were still enough quality players on Melbourne's list for James Jordan to be dropped.
I disagree. I think the best 22 was on the field at the time, but I think with Gunston comes in, he can replace it, and he just adds like an extra element.
I think Gunston's a trap.
I'm not 100% certain he's going to be best 22 come round one, but I think he does play a few games. Like, I don't think he goes there unless he's confident he's going to play a lot of games. Like, that's just the way I look at it.
You say that, but players go to clubs for silly reasons.
Well, they go for big money. That's the other reason, or the best contract they're being offered. Essentially, it's like look at someone like Proust to Melbourne type thing.
Correct.
Like, that's stupid.
Yes.
But I don't think it's that at all. Like, there was talk of him on the outer, and I don't think even he was out of the best 22 at St Kilda purely because he wasn't good enough. Because St Kilda are rubbish. I think it was more with off-field things, and I don't think he got on with people and stuff like that. Like,
I'm just happy to back in James Jordan over
long term. You want James Jordan.
Anyway. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm high on James Jordan.
Yeah.
Much higher than Luke Dunstan.
All right, while we're talking about Luke Dunstan, we'll talk about another player he could have an impact on down here. But look, we'll talk about Tom Sparrow. So a forward-eligible player that generally plays in the guts. In most circumstances, you say, yes, please. So playing 13 games in the regular season, Tom Sparrow averaged 50 AFL fantasy points in a minuscule 57% time on ground, finishing the season as the 5th inside midfielder by average CBA percentage behind Oliver, Petrarca, Varney and Harms. In 90% attendance rate, he picked up significantly at the tail end of the season, recording an average of 42%. So that was 20 plus 23% from round 20 to the grand final. So he boosted that towards the end of the season. So that's something that we like to see come towards the end of the year. Also a quality score in the VFL. Sparrow averaged 92 AFL fantasy points in his 5 games in reserves last season. His score of 128 shows us he has a fantasy ceiling, and then when he's given that prominent role, he can actually go pretty big. But the issue is bloody Luke Dunstan again. So the question for us to debate was how much impact does Dunstan have on these guys? And I think we already did that, but we think we've already talked about that. But what do you reckon? I don't think Sparrow is as affected because he can go forward as well a bit more. Jordan played a few games in defence last year, didn't he, as well?
I love Tom Sparrow as well.
Yeah, so do I. I owned him a couple of years ago. I was pretty high on him. And I think he was a good junior fantasy scorer as well.
He was a very good junior fantasy scorer. I have him in our podcasters league. Yeah. And it was basically, you always like to keep a couple roughies or whatever. And I thought it was going to be Caleb Poulter. He lost his forward status. So Tom Sparrow gets the call up because he's got his forward status. Yeah. I think for me, Tom Sparrow's a free swing this year. Like, he's in that. Could be anything as a forward. Why not grab him?
Yep.
Once again, like, I'm still not that worried about Luke Dunstan.
Just before we move on to North Melbourne, just a few things from the chat. So Jason Beck's actually come up with a saying for us. So he's saying, if things get hairy, just manscape your whole team, your whole keeper league team. So that's good. That's a good one. Ad N in the chat said, Rivers does have a poor tank, as confirmed by Max Gawn recently, so might not boost that time on ground numbers. And Harley Philp in the chat, Kays, he said he's probably missed the Luke Jackson talk, but if Kays can just say how much he loves him again, then that'll make him happy. So
I really love Luke Jackson. Okay, apparently he's got some new tats and he's looking pretty sick too.
New tats? Yeah. Has he kept the mullet?
Yeah, mullet and tats.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. All right, let's get on to everyone's favourite, North Melbourne. All right, on to the Roos. I seem to be taking all these teams that no one else wants to do, but that's the kind of man I am. I'm a heavy lifter for the podcast.
So many great players at the Roos.
Jeez, it's hard. This was hard work, man. I went through it again. I wrote these notes because I'm like 2 weeks ahead because I've been on school holidays and I want to get everything ahead before I actually get to work. So I wrote this 2 weeks ago and I went through them again today. I was like, surely I've missed someone. Surely there's someone here to talk about. And nothing popped out. So feel free to chime in the chat if you think I've missed someone keeper relevant. But first player I'm going to talk about is Jed Anderson. So
you go for it. I'm just going to sit back and just listen.
So in one way, Ono's prayers have been answered because he's been given forward status. But now we've got to wait for our next prayer to be answered, and that's for him to get vaccinated. Last I heard, he was still in Darwin and hasn't returned to training just yet. Not really sure what's going on. It looks like he missed the start of the season because he's missed a fair bit of training and conditioning too, plus he's got to get that jab. If he was training, double vaxxed, triple vaxxed now, boosted. And in Melbourne, you'd be all over this guy because he averaged 104 BCV in 2020, played every game too, which was a first ever for Jed because he is generally pretty injury prone. Missed round 1 last year through injury, but returned in round 2 and had a whopping 127 points in his first week back. And then the second week back, he was on 60 halfway through the second quarter and then hurt his ankle. So he was out for 2 months, but showed he could put up, more than 60 points and a half there. So he was on track for some big fantasy numbers last year, but the injuries really hurt him. Then he played the last 5 games of the season coming back and averaged 74.2 from the last 5, and then 79 average for the season. So even as with all the things happening, as a forward, you'd take a 79 average for the season for sure. Still managed throughout when he came back, but the points per minute numbers were good. He went at 0.9 points per minute, so almost a point a minute there. Basically, if he plays midfield this year, he's lock and load. But realistically, I don't even know if he plays because of the vaccine situation, but I just think there's so many mid-forward types at North Melbourne. I think they're all going to rotate. They're going to try to just get some of these kids hit through, your Horn Francises, and they'll try to get Phillips through there and Powell as well. They'll try to run all these guys through the midfield, through the forward line. Greenwood can also go forward and mid as well. I think they're all going to play these similar roles, developing people and stuff like that. And yeah, just the fact that he's injury prone too. They only played one season over 20 games. He played 17. He played every game in the COVID year, but there was only 17 games there. I don't know. He looks good on paper, but I'm super wary. What do you think?
He's 28 on Wednesday, so happy birthday, Jed. High risk, high reward this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super. I tend to agree. If he gets a good role, he's going to be one of the best averaging forwards this year. But at the same time, there's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah, I just really hope he announces his vaccine situation before our keeper deadline. That would be great.
Burn one.
I'll keep a bloke and he just doesn't play for the year. That'd be the worst.
That's very on brand for your side, Hef.
That was not for my keepers. My keepers are generally quite good.
You just bomb the draft every year.
Oh, except for 2 years ago when I finished 3rd when I was rebuilding. Jeez, that was a good year.
Did you win?
No, I got close though. Got very close.
So,
COVID
didn't win.
COVID year killed me. All my players got injured come finals. Would have otherwise with that young team. But anyway, let's stop talking about my team and let's move on to the next player. So Tom Powell. So best scorer of the 2020 draft class, 119 average in the sample under 18s. Started the season a little slowly last year. Had a purple patch between rounds 4 and 7 where he averaged 92.5 between those rounds. Turned up once, had 2 scores in the 90s and just seemed to be managed for the rest of the season after that. Didn't play after round 14. So showed a lot of promise last year when he was given midfield opportunities too. Played a bit up forward, which resulted in DPP. I see him playing the mid-forward rotation, as I mentioned before, again, and I see it for the next couple of seasons. So I think he's going to keep DPP for a while, and because I just think they're going to rotate a lot of players through there, and they'll play secondary roles. Now they'll do that just as a development thing. So I think he'll be okay to hold forward status for a couple of years. But I do see him as a natural midfielder going forward. And in that case, you want to grab him in when he's in that transition year when he kind of transitions into a full-time midfielder, which might be a couple of years away. He's definitely one I'm keen on the future. I just don't know how he's going to go in the short term. But yeah, if you've got him, you've got to hold him because he should be a gun.
Yeah, you're not listing Tom Powell.
Yeah.
I actually don't see him being a forward next year. I think this is his kind of last.
You go straight in there?
I think he does. What we saw from him last year when he was hot was very, very good for an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
So I just think, I think it's time. They've just got to pull the trigger and just go, all right, this is our core nucleus for going forward. And
I guess the upside is I guess you got Cunnington who's out crook at the moment, and then you've got Jed Anderson who might not play. Hugh Greenwood comes in and replaces one of those. I don't know, Jai Simpkin goes through there. There's just a raft of kids that could go through there as well now. Your Horn Francises and LDU. Yeah. There's just so many. He's probably not going to be in that top three starters. So then he's going to be playing a secondary position. That's the way I see it. So yeah,
he's a magnet. I think you just got to get him. You got to get him.
Yeah, you got to hold him. I reckon definitely for potential. I'm just not sure how soon we see it, just because there's going to be competition for spots at North Melbourne. Weirdly, but anyway, this is how bad I'm going. Luke Mcdonald's a player I'm going to talk about. So I've got rest in peace written next to him. So this is more of a warning. Don't pick this guy. He had the juiciest role in 2020. Just ran around and mopped up across halfback. It's a role that basically Zeeble played at the start of last year. It's the role that Hall ended up playing at the end of last year. It's just the best role for fantasy, and and honestly thought he'd have it again last year, but got injured and lost it essentially. Averaged 90.6 in the BCV in that 2020 year. Talked about, basically Zeeble stole it off him when he got injured, then Hall stole it off of him afterwards. Played one game in round 4 last year, then got injured, done his pectoral, so he just basically didn't get a good run in. Put up a few decent scores playing on the wing, and when he came back, had 80s and one score in the 90s there, but nothing on that 2020 year we saw, and that was purely role dependent, and he's not getting that back. I do think he finds himself back on the wing at the moment, but there is talk of him going back on the halfback flank as well, but I think there's just too many mouths, if that is the case, for him to be actually fantasy relevant. I think if he plays on a wing, he might be capable of an 80, but like an 80 average midfielder, like, I don't know, who cares? Like, maybe in our league when we play utilities where you got to fill them up the last 3 spots with your best available scorers that generally tend to be the lower ranked mids. But maybe cover M7. I don't know. Not really one I'm really looking at. Just putting out there, like, rest in peace, Mcdonald. I think you had that good run in 2020, but if anyone thinks it's going to be coming back, it's not. So just look elsewhere.
He was never a guy that really excited me in the first place, and then
never as a player
he boomed, and then everyone was so excited. And I actually called it wouldn't happen again last year.
Yeah, but no. But the thing is, like, you didn't call there wasn't a role. Yeah, like he was wrong.
Don't ask how the oracle comes about. He just comes.
You do it without analysing the game. You just go, I think he's not going to be bad.
It's all gut feel. It's called.
It's MANSCAPED gut feel.
My bald scroll.
It's your bald cool. I don't know. Your smooth ball cool. That's what it is. Yeah, it just rolls off the tongue. Anyway, move on to the next one. So Will Phillips, while K's looks at his. What do you call it? The performance package 4.0. There we go. Will Phillips was one of the better midfielders out of the 2020 draft. Averaged 77 in the NAB League as a bottom ager. So obviously he would have gone bigger there and better in 2020 if he were able to play. But then, COVID killed that. So he ended up being a top 3 draft pick anyway. So that's how highly North Melbourne rated him. Played his first game in round 3 and then played up until round 8. He didn't set the world on fire, but he is a natural inside midfielder and found himself playing up forward. So that was a role he was super unfamiliar with, and they talked about it that he had to actually kind of learn how to play this role. So he returned after getting injured, went via the VFL, put up some big numbers there playing as an inside mid. He had 2 scores of 114 there, and then returned round 15 and played some more midfield time there. He just lifted that. So I think he averaged 30% of North Melbourne CBAs from round 15 onwards, and he was only 15% earlier in the year, so when he played up until round 8. So again, I just don't see a breakout because he's another one that, for the reason why I wrote Tom Powell, I think it's going to be another mid forward. I think there's just too many rotators through there, and I just don't think they'll all be able to use him in the midfield. So he's another one that I reckon has to find a second home. And I think that the fact that they put so much time into him learning a bit of forward craft, it'd be a bit wasted if they didn't plan on using it going forward. But that said, he could just suck at it and they just end up throwing in the midfield as well. I think it's just going to be another development year ahead. I think North Melbourne are actually going to struggle to win a heap of the footy as well. So I don't know if the third year breakout, stash now, but then if the third year breakout comes around because this is his second year, then he might be one to go for there. What do you think? He's another one that you want to stash, isn't he?
Well, it's a good question. He's in my side currently in our home league.
Yep.
I just don't know if I can hold him in my 16th spot.
It makes it so hard for these youngsters, isn't it? That's why.
I just didn't see enough. So I was kind of excited because I think I drafted him in round 4 last year, and I thought that's a perfect price.
I thought it was a great pick at the time.
He could be anything. Like he could have almost done what Tom Powell's done, but just didn't quite show it. Still looked quite small out there. Like Tom Powell looked a bit stockier than Will Phillips, and it probably showed in how he went about finding the footy. I put my team out end of last year, or I tweeted it out or whatever, saying this is who I'm keeping, this is who I'm kind of delisting. What are your thoughts to some of our followers? And a lot of people came back and said you've got to keep Will Phillips. Now I just don't know if I can do that, especially when my team's still reasonably strong and can push for a flag. If I was in rebuild mode, sure, I might be more inclined to, but I just haven't actually seen what I need to see at AFL level yet. And I'm happy to give him the benefit of doubt. Like, everyone kind of develops a different rate, and we all know he's going to get good next year because that's the rule in your third year breakout. Yeah. But for me this year, I just think it's still a risky-ish hold. Look, I'd look to redraft him as potentially a speculative flyer.
I think if you're in my position where my team is at the moment, you'd be keeping him. Mm-hmm. But because you're trying desperately so hard to contend
runner-up,
to win your first flag because you've never won one.
Really unlucky sometimes.
Unlike someone else here who's won one.
You just got lucky.
Anyway, lucked my way to a flag.
You did.
Anyway, what was I saying? Like it depends. So people see your like keepers and they go like, you're crazy to not keep him, but they don't really understand where your team's sitting at in the league and know that the top teams generally keep the best players. They don't really care about the youth and stuff like that. So I think he's someone you're going to have to throw back, but he's going to be a juicy pick up for someone because a lower team will pick him up and be able to kind of stash him for next year and keep using him as the keepers next year, even if he's not bad. So I think he's still a year away. That's all. All right, I'm breaking a rule here. I'm going with Aiden Core, who's a key defender. So I don't love this pick, but there just wasn't a lot there. But there you can make a case for Aiden Core. So he only played 2 games last year. And then he averaged 64 from those 2 games. But he scored 84 in round 2 against the Gold Coast, then suffered a toe injury, which ruled him out for the rest of the season. Averaged 16 disposals per game, though, which is quite good for a key defender. Basically, what am I trying to get here? So he's the top 10 disposals for key defenders in the league, which, I thought I'd just highlight that because most key defenders don't actually score that well through getting touches and things like that. If you look at the rest of the key defenders in the competition, the best was Luke Ryan. He had 22 disposals a game, and Rampy was second with 18. So then you've got Aiden Core, who's averaging 16 per game. And again, we know it's only from 2 games, so it's a small sample size. But look, the thing is as well, his disposal efficiency was at 81%. So he actually used it well by foot. So he might be someone that they want to use by foot and maybe get a few kick-ins from that as well. Terrence left the club, so there's opportunity there for him. I think there's only 3 recognised key defenders on North Melbourne's list, and one of them kind of floats between forward and back as well. So he'll have some defensive jobs to do, so that'll be making pretty gross for some weeks. But he'll have up weeks too, and, he could be like not in terms of playing, but in terms of scoring, could be like a Stephen May type thing where he does take quite a few kick-ins and stuff like that and gets a few kicks around the place and can score well. But, I can see him being like a 70 averaging defender at his best, which might be good enough for a streamer or a bench player, maybe a last defender.
I thought his 2020 was better than it was. He only averaged 50, which is about a 62.
He was just talked up so much because he moved clubs. That always happens. And there was talks of role changes and stuff like that for him. Yeah.
I thought I was actually going to be like, I actually wouldn't mind drafting Core, but no, after what I've seen, no. I don't know. I'm happy to give him a pass.
Draft him late. It depends what's available. But I can see him averaging 70 if he gets a full season.
After doing our defender ranks the other day, there's a lot of good defenders.
Yeah,
deep.
I think.
You don't need to stretch on someone like Core, who's...
I don't remember ranking him, to be honest.
Kind of unproven. I reckon you could get, I don't know, Jake Bowie or something like that quite late, who's got more upside. And that's my point, I think.
Yeah, no,
if he was a forward, you might go a bit earlier, but not
I agree with that. I just really struggled to people to talk about for North Melbourne. Another one that we can talk about, though, is one of our boys that we love watching and love talking about in the podcast, and that's Cam Zuerha. So despite not being the best fantasy scorer, we still love him.
Zuerha.
We still love him. We love the way he goes about it. So we tipped him for a midfield role last year, and he did get stints in there early, but just didn't really have the tank for it. He was tried in a few positions, even had a game of halfback, which is actually pretty fantasy friendly. He looks solid in there, but he's definitely a natural forward though, and I think that's where he'll play his career for the most part. From round 7 to 22, he kicked at least 1 goal in every game. He did get injured in the last game, so he probably would have finished that off if he didn't get injured. Had 3 bags of 4 in there too, so his best game was against Gold Coast, in round 15, where he kicked 2 goals and had 12 kicks, 12 marks, 7 marks, and 101 AFL fantasy points. And I think he will continue that role just with little stints in the midfield, just due to that tank, I think, as well. Once he hits his prime, I can see him being around the 80 mark. He might be a scorer like Toby Green one day. Not huge, but keeps forward status each year and things like that. I'm not really sure. But yeah, he'll take a while to get there nonetheless, I think. I just like the fact that he can hit the scoreboard, Case. So that's 9 points every time. So he's a player, if you can stash him away for a few years, I would. But yeah, you've had a little smirk on your face through this one, Case.
I'm just looking through his numbers because I'm a big Zuerha, man. I just love, it's just a big bustling unit. He's got a lot of 70s and a lot of 30s. He needs to kind of tighten that gap.
Yeah.
Look, I drafted him last year and I don't think I really ever played him unless I was desperate or I had to loophole him in or something.
Yeah.
He already had 1 ton against the Gold Coast where he had 22 touches, 24 touches.
I think that might have even been the halfback game. He started a forward.
Or he kicked 2 goals too.
But I think both of them on the run though. I think he was outside 50 for one of them as well.
I like him. I just need him to lift his floor. Like,
Yep.
I'm not too concerned about his ceiling. Like, if you're getting a forward who's going to get you maybe high 70s each game, great. But I can't have you scoring a 30 on me.
Nah, that's the thing. Yeah, maybe a streamer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Honourable mention, I guess, Callum Coleman-Jones. There's a bit of interest from the listeners on him. Looks like he might be one of the rucks of the future, North. You've got to factor in that Goldie is going and they've recruited him probably for a reason. But I reckon he's going to have to wait at least a year. He said he's really keen to work under Goldstein and learn from him. So I think he's factoring in that he's not probably going to play or maybe play second string, but he wants to actually work with him and learn. So he might have to wait a year before he becomes a decent scorer, but we'll have to see how he goes.
He's a nice stash prospect for me.
I think so.
A
as
rookie
well.
lister if you got him.
Yep, absolutely. All right, that wraps up our our team analysis segments. We'll move on to the membership quickly. So it is ranking season, Kays. Mm-hmm. So last week we put our defender rankings and the podcast or the bonus episode that goes with that. Tomorrow we've got midfielder rankings coming as well. So, I mean, you've already done them. Don't groan.
Yeah, no, but it was just so hard.
They are so hard. They're hotly debated as well in that podcast. We actually went for 45 minutes on the bonus episode.
We went a bit too in
We
deep.
usually punch out half an hour, 25, half an hour minute episodes on those bonus episodes. We went deep. So if you're not a member, you're missing out a lot of gold content and debate and argument and a few funny laughs as well on there too. So, sign up as a member, get the bonus content, get the bonus episodes, get our rankings, which are always pretty popular.
And wrong when you're ranking Ben Keys, you guys.
None of your ranks are ever wrong. But anyway,
Oracle doesn't miss.
Drafty fantasy scores are something else you can also get. State League fantasy scores, also the breakout tracker, much, much more. The other thing is as well, I didn't think this would be attract so much interest, but my ranking spreadsheet that I put out on Twitter a few weeks ago, it's got CBAs, kick-ins, points per minute, time on ground, has all the players' ages in there, so you can see how old they are, when they debuted, when they were drafted, all that sort of stuff. Their last 3 games, last 5 games, the splits between the season, has all this kind of information in one spot to help you out with your rankings. So I've put that in the gold members group as a bit of a beta test, and I didn't actually think there'd be that much interest, but I am going to put it out for gold and silver members. So if you want this ranking spreadsheet, then have a look at it.
Couple things on that.
Okay.
One.
Hope you're going to talk it up.
One. It's actually, there's too much information.
Yeah, there's so much on there.
There's too much information. You can't even process it. My small mind can't process it.
Yeah.
But secondly, I honestly believe this from the bottom of my heart. I'm not saying this because we are the Keeper League. I'm saying it is easily the best fantasy resource around.
Okay, so that means so much. It's probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
It is, but it's true. If I wasn't a member, I wasn't involved in this, that would be a reason I would pay money for it, because it's worth it. It's 100% worth it.
The thing is as well, I probably did, when I sent it to you as well, I didn't kind of freeze panes and stuff like that where it kind of keeps player names there and it makes it easier to scroll across. I've done that for the members one as well. So also you can hide columns, you can delete columns if there's too much information in there as well.
Which I did.
But yeah, it's a huge spreadsheet. It's got so much data in there for every player to help you out with your rankings. It's super handy for our rankings because you can see how players ended their season and not just the last 5, last 10s, that sort of stuff as well.
Think like prospectus on steroids.
Yeah, it's huge.
But better and usable.
Need to add some comments in there. That's the next thing, but that's a big job to do that for 700 players. But anyway, that's going to be available for gold and silver members, that spreadsheet, the ultimate ranking spreadsheet. So, just in beta mode, testing a few things, trying to iron out any kinks and find any errors that are in it. But it will be out soon, I promise. I'm not going to give you a date because I go back to work full-time tomorrow, so we'll see. But it will be out there before you do your drafts, don't worry. Anyway, gold members have that version, but we'll talk about our gold members that sign up. We read out 10 of them each week on the podcast. I think, Kays, because you haven't been here for a couple of weeks, I'll let you read out these gold members' names.
You're a generous man. So, welcome Jake Thresher, James Brennan, Shannon Jackson, Andrew Gottliebson. Gottliebson. Sorry, Andrew, I keep ruining your name. Shane Brown, Toby Brandenburg, Carla Copeland, Mike Warren, Tim Davis, and Luke
Matarocchia. We've had him he's been a member for ages.
Yeah, but
we've practiced that one.
I need to get close to this. I don't want to butcher any more names than I normally do have.
All right, fine. Hope that microphone isn't peeking out with you moving it so quick. That's all right. I yell at you for that. Podcast reviews. We've got no new ones on there. Just make sure you get on Spotify and give us 5 stars now. We're down to 4.7 last week. That was gross.
Is that because Doss is on now?
Threw up in my mouth a little bit. Nah, but we're back up to 4.8 the last time I checked. I haven't checked this week, so hopefully it's back up to 4.9
Doss.
at least. is. But maybe just if you can.
I missed
jump
a few
on
episodes and we dropped ratings.
No, I'm sorry, man. No, it's just we didn't drop. It's just where we started at. So I don't know. Spotify's only just brought in the ranking system, the rating system. So anyway, that's it. So yeah. Anyway, if you want to be a member as well, there's a link in the description below. Just click that and sign up there. Anyways, I'm just kind of stalling until I get back to the next title, and that is the listener questions. All right, the listener questions. Again, I'll kind of say this throughout the preseason. We used to answer all of the questions. We get too many now, and the show goes too long these days because we give away too much information. So we try to just pick the questions that don't relate to any player that we've talked about already on the show and already kind of given you the answer for. So, Kays, what's the first question?
It's from Kang Daddy. 16-team, deep, 32-player startup league. Where would you Stallions take Ben Cunnington? Age and sadly health will make him slide, but how far would you let that happen before you snap him up? Cheers.
He's one of those players for me that I'm now at the stage where I just wouldn't take him. Mm-hmm. So I can't give you an answer for that because I just wouldn't take him. He's not on my radar at all. If he was the last pick in the draft, maybe.
No, but if he's healthy for me, I'm taking him. You see, if I'm contending, I reckon he could slide to around 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And I reckon he'd be great value.
You mean in your redraft type thing?
In a redraft, yeah.
Not
a startup, no.
I think that was obvious. But just for me, where my team's at, I just don't need a player like him. He's not going to be
99 last year, man.
Yeah, but I think it was from minimal games, wasn't it? And then also, the health concerns and stuff
from
like
15
that.
15 games.
Is he even? Oh, was it? I knew I missed a few, but that's not too bad actually. That's a lot better than I thought it was.
He's 30.
Maybe I wouldn't then. I didn't know. I didn't realize that. I thought it was around the 80 mark. My bad. No. What did I rank him as? I'm just trying to. Did I even have him in the ranks here? I'm just trying to look him up here. I had him at 92. You had him at 89th. Doss didn't rank him, and he was 101st overall in our rankings.
Potentially about right. It's hard to know what to do with his health, but if you're contending, I think he's going to slide and he's going to be great value.
I backflip on that. Now that I know he averaged 99, if he can get fit, I don't mind. I would draft him if I was contending.
Back on the pod and Hef backflipping. It's good to be back.
Mate, I'll say this a million times in my lifetime. Changing your mind is a strength, not a weakness, buddy.
Next question. At Brian19. What's the go with Connor Downey? Was all the rage last preseason and played one game as the Sun before never being heard from again. As a sub, sorry. Played one game as the sub before never being heard from again.
Now, have you been looking on the side of milk cartons? Because there's a missing person. Seriously, I have no idea what has happened to him. He was all the rage last year. I was looking for articles today. I only spent 5 minutes because I've been home at ISA with my son and not getting a lot of time to myself. But I could not find a report about him. I don't know if you can quickly find one. He's mentioned in a few articles saying that one of the up and coming crop and stuff like that.
He had surgery on his ankle in September.
Okay, that's not great. So maybe that's it. Maybe he's not back to full training. There's just no information about him, so it's really hard to tell what's going on. We can't just go down to Waverley and peek over the fence, unfortunately. We're in South Australia.
Could one of our listeners do that?
Yeah, maybe they could. That'd be nice. I got no idea. Sorry, Brian19. Can't give you too much. But Jamie Radford, 66, he wants to know something about Finn Mcginnis, some information on him. I don't know how he's tracking. I don't know how he's tracking this preseason, but he averaged 65.7 in the VFL last year. Top score was 90 and then had an 89. Everything else is pretty low. Played one game last season for 54, and I think he was a sub for another one. I think there was some reasonable junior fantasy scoring, but I can't actually remember, but I drafted him last round last year, and I generally only draft people that I don't know much about as if they have good junior fantasy scoring. So there must have been a reason there. So I don't know. I can't see it happening. Yeah, there's too many competition now as a midfielder in there. And I don't think he's overly big as well. I think he's nuggety as well. So I'm not really sure where he goes. I have to double check that. But off the top of my head, I don't think he's overly massive either. Boff_19 wants to know, can you see an uplift from Ed Langdon this season, Case?
We averaged 85 last year. A couple of years ago, averaged 92. That was probably when he was still at the Dockers. So, no. I think he's he is what he is. I think he's an 85, maybe tops 90 kind of wingman. We know that wingmen don't always score as well as, a genuine midfielder. And Ed Langdon is the most outside of outside wingman. And that's no disrespect for Ed. He plays his role fantastically. He's an absolute running machine. But his job is to get the ball, run, and, kick it into their forward line, not win contested pill. So, no, I think that's just what he is.
Finn Mcginnis is not nuggety. He's 187 centimetres. So, no. But he just looks smaller on TV.
But is he a metre wide?
He's 80 kilos, which is
not nuggety enough.
My weight right now, and I'm small. So, yeah. Anyway, what were we talking about? Ed Langdon. I did actually have a good stat. So what did he average last?
85.
85. I think he actually declined in scoring in the second half of the year. Just give me 2 seconds to get this up because I actually got it off the screen. But if memory serves me correctly, he actually went backwards in his fantasy scoring. So I've got Zach Langdon here. That's not who I want. So anyway, I can't get it up quick enough. But I'll go off the top of my head. I won't say for sure. But it was something like he dipped his scoring in the second half of the season, which is probably an indicator that something changed mid-year. And I don't know if something is going to change on the way back. So I think his first half of the year was a lot higher than his second half of the year from memory. So it doesn't fill me with confidence. But that said, I still see like an 80, mid-80 average for him because he's that type of player that can win enough footy on the outside. It's just that I don't see where the scope comes from for him to improve. That's all.
Dale Crane, LDU to average 95 this year and Greenwood to average 100?
No. There's two answers to that.
What numbers?
I see 85 for LDU, 80 to 85. And Greenwood could go 90, but I reckon that 85 to 90 range. Although there's a few midfielders missing.
Davies Uniacke averaged 81 last year, 90 in his back five.
Yeah, maybe 85, 90, maybe.
No Cunnington, no Anderson.
Oh, no Anderson yet. I would say, maybe. Let's go maybe.
I don't know if Greenwood's a genuine 100 average player either.
Nah,
like he's
neither. I'd say 90 to 100.
Yeah.
Maybe LDU could boost to 95, but I'd say 85 to 90 is probably more what I'm aiming at.
Nathan Quarrell, rank these Hawks for me. Who goes? Can't fit them all in. So he's got Scrimshaw, Warple, Wingard, and Impey. 1 to 4, please. Hefola.
I'm going to go with. I'm going to go Warple 1, and then Wingard. Wingard 2. Scrimshaw drops down because of the backline conundrum, and Impey drops out for me.
What?
Yep.
I think you got to keep Warple. I'd go Impey. Wingard.
I knew you were going to say that because you have a thing for Impey that you just love.
Because he's actually really good.
But he's
much more consistent.
You always talk about one good season. Yeah, that's true. You always talk about one good season. That's all
Wingard's a forward, so it's really hard to,
a forward that's going to play midfield apparently this year. So, and he did play a lot of midfield at the end of last year's season.
Can't fit him all. I think Scrimshaw's peaked.
No, I don't know about that. But I think both of them are going to struggle in that back line. I think Scrimshaw has been Scrimshaw's a better talent. Like, it was a high draft pick, and he's kind of shown a little more.
Export guys.
No, I like Impey.
Once they leave the pair,
Impey left on good terms. He's fine. Like, I just think you're the one who harps on about one season. Impey's and pretty injury prone his whole career. Don't love it. Although Scrimshaw's no better. But I don't know. I think Scrimshaw just fits into the side a little nicer. He's a bit more unique than Impey is, I think.
He's unique.
What's that?
He's unique.
Now, when you think about, I guess Bramble, someone who can come in there. I can't even think off the top of my head. Will Day, someone can play that running halfback line.
Don't draft Hawks players.
Yeah, it's so hard. Anyway, last one from @Legless Simo. Lockie Bramble and Connor Nash had Sam Mitchell written all over them. That they did. Do you see them keeping guys like Phillip and Shields out now?
Well, my
you said no.
I feel.
Potentially. I reckon they'll start with Phillips and Shields, but if they start performing pretty poorly, I think they're replaced with kids pretty quickly. Yeah, that's the way I see it.
Yeah. Shields is probably the one who's a bit more worrying than Phillips.
Everyone's talking about him going forward, but why wouldn't you just play Connor
Shields?
Nash? Yeah, everyone's playing forward.
He's old, isn't he?
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Why would you bother? Just play a kid.
Tom Phillips is 25, so I'm not buying into the youth policy him.
No, not at all.
Good one on the chat. Have thoughts on North Ruck Jacob Edwards as a deep stash in a dynasty league?
He was the mid-season draftee.
Correct.
Yeah, a lot of talk about him. I don't think we got to see a lot of him at the VFL level though either, but we did put up his fantasy numbers, which were reasonable. Yeah, stash.
If you're playing like we're doing now, home league, rookies and stuff, always throw a stashable ruckman in there because you just never know if they're going to turn into gold.
We've seen 2 years of mid-season draftees Who's been the best one
Will
so far?
Snelling.
Will Snelling. Yeah. Doesn't fill me with heaps of confidence.
Will Snelling's super underrated.
I know he is, but it still doesn't. Like, he had a good end of last season, but again, you're the one swallow doesn't make a summer case.
He's had 2 good years now.
Has he?
Yeah.
No, I can't remember. Oh, yes, he has too. You're right. Yeah, I don't know. Still, if that's the best you're getting, doesn't fill me with the confidence. But he's younger, potential, stash. That's all it is. Like,
It's a stash.
Probably won't play early, but stash him. Yep. All right. That's a wrap, Kays. So thanks for joining us this week. Hopefully next week we can get all 3 of us in the room for once. That'd be great.
I'll have to consult my contract.
See if we can actually be here at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, you'll have to rush between the 2 seats pretty quickly as well. But anyway, hit us up on our socials at Keeper League Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Posting a bit of TikTok content up there as well, but it's mainly just the stuff you see on Instagram. Anyway, but yeah, thank you to Manscaped for the products and getting involved. Make sure you use KeepIt20 at manscaped.com to get 20% off and free shipping. Also, there's a link to that in the description if you want to get involved in that. Sign up as a member, get involved in the Manscaped competition on the socials. And I think that's everything, Kay. Is anything else from you?
No, can't wait to go home and trim my balls.
I don't even have to go home for that. That's great. Anyway, we'll talk to you next week. See you later.